It's time for the Average Black Man Show. Got the work week done, clocking out, no rushing. About to hit the YouTube streets. Now it's time for a discussion. Only come with the real, can't be fake or frontin'. Don't run from the conversation, there ain't no ducking. Sit back, sip some wine, get into the vibe. Go hit the link and come up on the live. Jump on in the comments and let me pick your mind. Opinions flying free, let's let our thoughts collide. It's the Average Black Man Show, talking about everything you need to know. Sometimes things may get a little heated, but these conversations are needed to help the community heal and grow. Accountability, responsibility, reciprocity, respectability.
And welcome to the Average Black Man Show. Today, I have my guest, author Jamaal Best. Welcome to the panel.
Hey, thank you so much, man. Thank you, Tim.
All righty. And just a quick little for the people that don't know, Jamaal is actually, I don't even want to say a childhood friend because that make it seem like we old.
We are old, man. We're getting there. So,
Right. But we're here to talk about his book. I am so proud of my brother from another mother that he has penned a dictionary himself. Let me get my hands off your name. There you go.
thank you,
we
brother.
go.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate
Yes,
you.
yes. Man, I'm so proud that you did this, bro. This is it's a great it's a dictionary. That's when I when I went into it, I'm thinking it was you wrote a book like the racist dictionary, but it's an actual dictionary.
It's an actual functioning dictionary. When I first started I looked up. I was trying to look up racist words, and there was no dictionary in sight. Nowhere that any of this information was centralized. And so, that's what kind of sparked the actual book itself and the idea behind it. So, and then the more I read into it, I realized how the history is basically not it's not easily acceptable or accessible. It's not centralized, and so I wanted to do that and make sure that that was done.
Right. And you pretty much answered what was going to be my first question. To start with what inspired you to write this dictionary in the first place. And that kind of answers the question right there. So from there, were there any surprises in anything that any of those words you come across, any particular
Well,
things in your studies that stood out like, wow, I didn't even know this one.
well, we can go to that, but as far as what really inspired the book, um, the the fact that our current administration was reelected after you know after everything that we saw on January 6th, and the language that led up to that election was really it was shocking, and you can see the demonization. If you're anybody that follows history, I'm not a historian or anything like that, but I pay attention to history, and Black people were uniquely we have pattern recognition because we've been through this stuff before, so we're able to kind of recognize it when it comes. And really, once I saw, after our nation was violently attacked, it made me think back to some things that we've experienced in our communities, as far as violence from in legalized violence, basically, because these people were pardoned. They weren't even held accountable, and I know what that means, and I know what that does. So it actually started way before, and also back into to when Barack Obama uh, was originally elected. You saw a huge uprising in the amount of militia groups. So and
Right.
I think it got up to like 755% increase, not 755 militia groups, 755% in an increase, and that's horrifying because these people have guns, and
Yeah.
they have political power and all of these things, and are able to
Right.
exact revenge, some kind of revenge for something that supposedly I thought, we were in a post-racial America, is what we're always told, but that is obviously not true. So
Right.
mhm,
Where's
yeah,
my questions? Yeah, and you're right. When Obama got in, we did see a huge increase in. We saw a huge increase in just racism. Period.
yeah, yeah, and it's that was, online. I don't know if I put it in the book, but um, I was stuck at home for about a year and 3 months. About two in 2020, the end of 2024, I had a surgery on my eye, and ended up, I was blind in my eye for like 7 months, and so
Oh,
I was online a lot, and I could not believe the how much the ri- the acceleration, I should say, of racism that I saw just online, and that's not including, I've had other instances where I've encountered some racism more recently in person, which is kind of crazy, and it's really been, uh, because I really believe it's because of the rhetoric and the language. That's why this is so important. Is because the language that we use and that we're described as, and things like that, it informs everyone. You don't even have to like teach a child to be racist, but if you
right.
label someone a certain thing, if you label them a certain word, they know how, just instinctively, they know that's good or that's bad. Or
Right.
even immigrants, we've had people, I've experienced with immigrants. I've talked to a gentleman that told me that the reason why they don't mess with black people is because they were told not to, when they
Not
come
to.
here,
Right.
and it's all, it starts with a word. And with that, I mean, after the word is spoken, then perception sets in, and then, from that perception, becomes policy, you know,
Right.
and those policies can negatively affect anybody that's been labeled as that. And we see that now with the Latin American community, or black and brown people.
Right.
The rhetoric that this administration has been spewing, is disgusting, and it's dangerous, and it's informing people, that it's telling people they're not even doing the dog whistle thing anymore. It's a straight up, bullhorn now.
It's in the quiet part out loud. Huh?
It's not even quiet. It's
Right.
out. It's in the open, and it's being made to be normalized and acceptable. And we see, with that, it's no wonder why we see an uptick in the amount of black and brown people, that are, in particular, black people. As of late, we've been seeing more of a, what I would call like a neo lynching kind of campaign that's going on across this country. Black people are coming up missing, and Black folks are coming up, basically being harassed, or shot,
Right.
or killed, just killed, and people, you know, instead of uh, jumping to the aid of Black folks, we're seeing people that are excusing it. It's being excused, and we've seen this in the past before. And so, that's it's hugely concerning for me. and is a big part of what really kind of pushed me towards this. And I didn't know what I was going to do at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
of Trump's second term. I was doing a lot of protesting and trying to organize people and things like that. But you know, uh, at some point, I kind of you said to myself, this isn't the best way for me to get my word out and speak my truth to people. And
Mm-hmm.
then at a point, I I started looking up these racist words, and I'm trying to find. I was trying to find a racist dictionary. Actually, I had a dream that I was looking up racist words, and when I woke up, I wrote it down in my journal and said, "I wonder, if that's." And when I looked, it wasn't there. So that was what kind of prompted that. So.
Okay. And something you mentioned in here earlier was what stood out to me in the epilogue. It
Mhm.
says, when I began this project, I thought I was writing a dictionary. I believed I was cataloging words. What I eventually discovered is that I was documenting a system built not only through violence and law, but through language. And words contained within the pages were never merely insults, they were instructions.
Yes,
They taught
instructions.
they taught generations of Americans who to fear, who to exclude, who to incarcerate, who to doubt. They taught Americans what blackness was supposed to be, long before most people had any meaningful relationship with black people themselves. And now, to me, that's the most powerful thing in the whole, because like we were mentioning, a lot of these younger kids like Gen Z, and they're using a lot of terminology that they don't even understand the history behind these terms, and for them it
Mm-mm.
doesn't have any meaning to them. They're just like, oh, this is just cool word to say. And it's like,
Yeah,
hold on, bro.
yeah, that doesn't register, and that's the danger of the one thing I would say about our education system, is that when we see it now, we see them trying to erase our history, and
Mhm.
the reason why that's important, and if you follow history, you know, anytime a people have been conquered, the conqueror erases their history,
Right.
and
And
that
replaces it.
was and replaces it, and that's what's happening right now. And in this modern day, I mean, people think it can't happen here, but you know I'm going to tell you something. This is a very human thing that it's been since the beginning of time. When the new guy on the block comes and knocks off the next person or the next civilization, they erase that civilization. And I don't want to see that happen with my people. And not only that, and this has been extremely dangerous to Black people. And, it's basically that they're able to tell you who you are. They're
Right.
able to say, oh no, and they've done this in this country through different characters. We're always a character of something that's before slavery ended, and during like antebellum period and everything. We were sambos and mammies, and just kind of
Right.
docile
Caricatures, right.
caricatures, and
Mhm.
even afterward, you know uh, during Reconstruction, and during the when like a Birth of a Nation came along,
Right. That's when the
they
negative
used,
caricature came in. And
because
that
it was.
character, because right, and you're right, because that character, like you're mentioning, the docile mammies, the yes sir, yes boss,
Yes, no, no, sir.
it right, yeah, it went
Mhm.
from that to now the caricature. Fast forward to today, it's actually why director Robert Townsend got blackballed, because he made that movie Hollywood Shuffle. You remember
Mhm.
Hollywood Shuffle, right?
Yes, I do, I do.
And that's where he highlighted, why are we always depicted in film and movies as criminals, the prostitutes, the drug dealers, and all of that. And they blackballed him for that. And which
Yeah,
leads
and
me to something that
mhm,
to the subtitle of the book, the dehumanization of Black people. So for the people
yeah,
that are unfamiliar, because I was unfamiliar with this term too, the Overton window. So
Yes.
explain to the people dehumanization in the Overton window.
So dehumanization would be, I mean, you you can, like, with specifically to black people, it's the, like we're talking about, these caricatures, these these framing, the framing of us as a dangerous or violent or over sexualized people. That is how we've been dehumanized. They use it in the military. There's different terms that they use for enemy combatants in order to be able to dehumanize them in the eyes of a soldier. And it makes it easier to, not just easier to harm that person, but justifies the actions. And so that's something that has been used against black people since, well, even before black people got here. There's so in the 1400s, mid 1400s, there's a man named Prince Henry, the navigator. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He was the Prince of Portugal in the 1850s, and he was the first person to go and explore uh, the African coast, and discovered African slaves, and sought to bring them back to Portugal and mass import them to Portugal for slave labor. And you know, he used, actually, his chronicler. His name is Gomez Inez de Lulu. He wrote a book that popularized the brute, like turning black people into brutes. Or saying that they were animals and animalistic and
Wow.
uncivilized, and all of this kind of language. And that book was extremely popular, and so it became acceptable in that country, in Portugal, once they started seeing black slaves come in, to Portugal. And so with that, they were able to replace the Slavs, which were Slavic people. I don't know if I know you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
Slavic people, whereas actually the word slave comes from,
Come
is
from.
Slav. Is derived from that. And so the African slaves were deemed more valuable and more desirable because they were instantly recognizable. You didn't look like anybody else. The Africans, you could see that they were black. They were people of the sun. And so
Right.
when they went to Portugal, they were easily identifiable. You knew if someone was trying to escape, and they were far from home. And so that was another really shocking thing to kind of discover. Just the diabolical nature, of
Right.
this enterprise. That was it was shocking, to me, to see that. And so again, the language that was used was to dehumanize us, and that justified, or it gave in those people's minds that they're beasts. It's
Piece
okay.
of the field. Right.
They're beasts of the field. They're beasts of burden. And so it made it okay for those people to then colonize Africa, um, steal, rape. You know, I mean, I don't want to be overly gross, but it's
Right.
like anybody that owns cattle or anything else, any other animal of theirs, they do what they please with them. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so it gave them that excuse in their minds, and that in their hearts, because I really do believe there's no way in your soul a human being can do this to another person and not have to rectify that in their heart. you know
Right.
and so, and a lot of the things that we've experienced, or our ancestors have experienced as Black people, is it's horrific. So,
Absolutely. And in more
and
recent times, we've seen a real time, very recent 2026 example of this dehumanization. I don't know if you're familiar, just went viral maybe last month. A little baby
Mhm.
doll in China called the Natasha doll, and
Oh no, I haven't seen that.
they're little small, uh, like squishy stress dolls, like
Yeah.
stress balls. Well, it was in the
Hmm.
shape of a little black baby, and they were taking them and slapping them, throwing them up in the air, driving over them with cars, and they just thought it was
No.
funny. And when they interviewed people, they said, "Well, why do you do this behavior to this particular doll, Natasha, when there's a line of other dolls that are not black?" And they said that they said the black doll is the only one that didn't feel like a real baby.
Wow.
Right.
Wow, that's insane.
Right, right. But now the Overton window, explain that, because
Okay.
this was new to me. I learned a lot from that from reading in the book.
Yeah, the Overton window is a term or just a concept that basically through media, you can have it through different, you know, different shows, different forms of media, movies, newspaper, nowadays online, podcasts even. It's when an idea that is far, on a fringe, maybe, in like today, what we're seeing is a lot of far right ideology that is being ushered into popular thought, and where it would not have been something that was a popular idea or an acceptable idea even prior, but it's the over and over kind of introduction of that narrative, and it shifts public sentiment, it shifts public view over time. And so a good example of this would be even in the 80s, actually 80s and 90s, you'd be surprised, like immigration, for instance. Ronald Reagan, which is, he is not a friend to me, or I'm not trying to praise that man, and President Bush, and they were very much pro immigration at that time. But over time, when we started seeing people uh, basically want to scapegoat black and brown people, and when you started seeing more and more issues with the economy, um, and you started to see the scapegoating of immigrants, that has been shifted now to where we're taking and removing people from this country, which is wild. It's less than, 40-year period of time that public sentiment was able to be shifted backwards, because we've always had, we've had these shifts and these sways, but I've never seen it shift this quickly. I don't know about you, but there's even with like Barack Obama, he deported a lot of people, but he did it in a humane way. It wasn't this what we're seeing on the street right now. But I don't think that even at his time, if you had seen any of that going on, if he had done any of that, even if I think if Biden or anybody that came before this clown had done that, I think we would have seen an outpouring and an uprising, an outroar of outrage, surrounding, you know citizens being shot in the street, you know, um, seeing, people, their rights being taken away. We're just sitting down and not doing anything about it. But I think it's really because of how much is coming at us all at the same time. We're constantly having to deal with the next new thing every single day. You know what I'm saying? And that what they call, and it's called muzzle velocity, just being hit every day over
Bombarded.
and over, being bombarded. And
Right,
after a while, we're not being able to we're not being able to respond. Our nervous systems can only take so much. You know what I'm saying? And so now with what we're seeing going on, we're not we're desensitized to
right.
everything. You know what I'm saying?
That's what
And
I was gonna. That's what I
that's
was gonna
kind of
say.
what the Overton window would be like, just the overall, over time desensitizing you to something that might in the past would have been unacceptable.
Right,
And so
right. Because it's absolutely true. Because a lot of people that are supporters of the current administration will make the argument that Obama uh, deported millions more than the current administration. But like you just mentioned, the difference is the way it looks now is almost reminiscent to a rounding up. Like
it
they're
is a rounding up.
like,
It's not,
you know
there's
what I mean? Like
Mhm.
like so that's to me, that, like you're mentioning, that's the stark difference. And the fact that these devices right here have allowed us to see so much violence across the board, from everything from attacks on women, attacks on children, to people actually taking their last breath, and we're watching it like, oh my
And
god, oh
watching
my.
it.
and
Yeah.
and we just become desensitized to, now when we're seeing this group of people effectively get rounded up, and in a lot of cases are lose their lives. It's just like we're watching it like it's an episode of Friends or something, like.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would take it a step further. This was something that was normalized back in the day when, and it comes from, it's jealousy. Um, it comes from a place of fear. And that's why it's so scary right now, because um we saw this in Black communities. Whenever Black people got something, there was an instant backlash. You know what I'm saying? Like, we would see a violent backlash in our communities from, and that was, legalized, or it was not punished. And again, January 6th, it was kind of reminiscent of that. But they would go and round up Black people too, instead
Right,
of them, I mean, I think it was Philadelphia that they dropped a bomb on the neighborhood. And
right.
so,
And
and that was
even
in the '80s.
even before, right, and I was gonna say, before that, they used planes and dropped bombs on Tulsa, Oklahoma. They did the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Then there's
Black Wall Street.
right. Are you familiar with Lake Lanier?
No.
Lake Lanier is much like it was an entire Black town founded by
Mhm.
Black people during the, like you mentioned, segregation, where it was separate but equal, and they
Yeah.
were over there doing their own thing. They were prospering and everything, and they was like, you know what, we want to build this dam over here, and that,
Mm,
where that town is, would make a perfect reservoir, and
yeah.
so they built the dam and then flooded that city.
Wow.
And on
Wow.
certain days in the summer, when it's hot enough and enough of the water evaporates, you can see the light shimmering off the top of the flagpole in the middle of the lake, because the town is
Oh,
still
wow. It's
standing.
still standing. Wow.
Right.
Wow.
But
Wow.
I don't
And
that's
it's
oh, I'm
Go ahead.
sorry, because I was gonna move on, but if you wanna
Okay.
comment.
Oh, no, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. So I was gonna ask, which word, in doing this, which word affected you the most? And was it something that was based on something that happened to you in your life? Like, was it a life experience that this word was just like, man, I remember when this
Remember that.
happened to me. Yeah.
Um, I would have to say the word pickaninny,
Wow.
the
Okay.
pickaninny, because um, you know, growing up we grew up in the same town.
Hmm.
Actually, I don't know. Well, I grew up when it was still Sunnymead. I was there.
Yeah.
We
I
we
was
were we were there during Sunnymead. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, yeah, I was here since '88. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you were there. So, we got there, I believe, in '85, and um, we experienced in our neighborhood. There's a friend, two friends of mine. They were white boys, but me and my brother, we played with them regularly, and they were our best friends as far as we were concerned. And they liked us, we liked them. Their father was cool. He would take us to basketball practice and baseball practice and things like that. And he never seemed to have a problem. He actually taught me how to swing a golf club in their backyard and such. So I would go over to their house and I would hang out with them and things like that. But their mother was I didn't know that she was racist. I had no idea. I didn't know what racism was at that age, and so my like my everybody else at that time, my parents were they worked every day, they worked Monday through Friday, you know when
Yeah.
we were at school. They were,
Right.
uh and there
They
was
were the
times,
average work, just like all of us,
they're
just the
just
average
like us.
American working family.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. And we had, there was times we were latchkey kids, and there was a time, and we found out later that, my mom, she quit. My mom was a Marine, and she had quit her job as a Marine. Was staying home, and it was 2 weeks before this that happened. But she had called, um, and we're all in the backyard. We were in our jacuzzi at the time. My brother, my sister, and my mom and I. And there's a knock at the door, you know, and I ended up going to go and answer it. And there was this man there. You know, he's looking down at me and says, "Is your mom home?" And I said, "Oh no, I don't know. Yes, my mom's home. She's in the back. Could you go get her?" Wayne got her, and turns out that it was CPS. We got CPS called on us, and if she hadn't been home, we would have been, in a world of hurt. Who knows what would have happened. But come to find out, a couple of the ladies in the neighborhood, one of them in particular, she told my mom that lady had called on us. And it was strictly because she was racist. And um, the reason why I bring up the word pickaninny with that is because the actual word pickaninny, they used that word to dehumanize children and to excuse the mistreatment of children. They portrayed us as being dirty, disheveled, mischievous, all of these things and I had no idea. I didn't know the depths of the meanings of the word before I started doing this research and looking into this stuff. And it really drove home I connected with that. It brought back that memory for me. Um, and some of the most disturbing, that was one of the more disturbing words, because there were songs that they made about that word, or used, about pickaninnies, and depicting them again as a caricature, like cartoons, um, you know, uh, postcards depicting pickaninnies and such. And there was a song that I heard when I was looking this stuff up, that was an old pickaninny song. And it was like almost like Freddie, that one, two, lady coming for you, or Freddie's coming for you. But it was about pickaninnies, and they were counting down, and it gets down to one, and it's talking. It said, you know, burn. Basically talking about burning a child, and there's no more, ain't no more, that kind of a thing. And they
Right.
were talking about the kidnapping and killing of Black children. And so that, to me, it blew my mind, man. I never, I can't understand that kind of cruelty. um and if you see how that's affected us up until modern day, Black children are coming up missing right now. you know we're having a modern day lynching, kind of a spree. Not, it's under the table, because you're not seeing it on national news until there's some kind of a crazy, you know uproar about it on social media. You might see one thing about it. But contrast that with, like when we saw those, was Alex Preddy and I can't remember, Megan Good, white kids that get, or white people that are shot by the police, and there's an uproar. It's just, nonstop coverage about this. uh, and it's stark to see that, that we're all, every and every mother, feels the same pain when their child dies, you know and to see that, just to see the stark contrast, it's really kind of informative of where we're at as a country right now, and it's
Right.
scary.
And that brings us back to, like you mentioned before, the dehumanizing. Because what is a pickaninny? A pickaninny doesn't sound like a person.
No, no,
So that
no, it's
makes
a
so like you
caricature.
said, right. So like you said, that makes it easier for them to justify their
Yes,
behaviors by saying that this isn't even a human. This isn't a child.
yeah.
This is a pickaninny.
It gets to the point where you were talking about before with this doll. They don't even see people. If you feed people something long enough, they begin to believe it. And then I can't believe some of the people that I see online that are black and talk this stuff, just in support of 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 these kids, like these that with Norman Wells, you know, the, we got black people that are saying, "Oh, they didn't do nothing," and they're not coming to the defense of Nolan, and they're criminalizing him, saying that he was too drunk and too this, or like he was, this is
They're
dehumanizing
dehumanizing him. Right.
actively right
They're
now,
dehumanizing him. Oh, he
right
did this.
right
Oh,
now.
it's his own fault. And we really don't. A proper investigation needs to happen.
Whereas if you see like, I mean, you'll see it once in a while. You see a white man will go and kill his whole family, or a white woman will kill her whole family or her children, and you see them characterize her as being, or him as having mental health issues, you
Depression,
know,
things of right.
depression, things like that. And they were so good. They were so, but when it happens to one of us, the first thing they jump to is the criminalization, and that's kind of it's done with the words again. It's done
Right.
with the language. Everything starts at language. It starts with a word that's spoken, and you say it enough, it gets into public discourse, moves that Overton window. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
you're able to then justify saying, "Oh, well, this person, they deserved it. They
Right.
deserved that
And it's like
because,
because even in the book, that takes me back to the book, because the very first word right under A, acting black.
yeah,
And
yeah, and acting
right
white.
out of the gate. Right.
Hmm.
So right out of the gate, that one, and the what was most glaring for me is that us in our community, we subscribe to it.
Yes, we
We
take it on
subscribe to it.
ourselves.
Right. We
We
subscribe.
take it on
So
ourselves.
an example would be the rapper Sexy Red, right? You
Mhm.
familiar with her, right? All right.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. So
Mhm.
so us as the black people will say, "Oh, Sexy Red don't represent us. That's not black culture. That's not, that's not us." And they always like the same thing we're mentioning. They always try to caricaturize us as this, that. But
Yeah.
then when Danielle Bergoli, Catch Me Outside, how about that?
Mhm.
When she
Oh, that's
came out,
us.
right.
Yeah.
No, the same black people that were saying, "Oh, look how they do us with Sexy Red." That's not us. Those same black people were saying, "Look at this white girl trying to be black."
Mhm. Mhm. Well, what my question would be is, how can a race, how can, uh, a way that a person acts, a race can't own that. That's their personal experience. Really, that is it's really policing how someone can behave, or the things that, the cultural experiences even that they can enjoy. It's the same thing. Going acting white, and then also, I'm sorry, going back to acting black. Acting black, is always viewed in some kind of a negative connotation, or
Connotation.
ghetto, or you know uh, just some kind of a derogatory thing, and that's what blackness is always associated with. And then it's pushed, you know I mean, these record companies, we don't own these record companies, we don't own the movie, studios, and the
Right,
television studios and stuff like
right.
that, but that
Going back to Robert
narrative,
Townsend.
yeah, that narrative is always pushed. And again, if you repeat something over, that's why it worked with the MAGA movement, and before that with Nazi Germany. Why all of those people subscribed to all of that is because there was some, it opens us to being scapegoated for our own demise. Oh, that's your fault.
Right.
You were acting black, or you were being violent, you were being, and they
Right.
associate that with your skin. But
Right.
again, you can't act, um acting black. What is that? People used to
Right.
tell me I spoke like I was white, and I'm like, what is it? A friend of mine, on this is after I moved away from the house that Junior was in, but
Hmm.
we moved up to Sunbeam Ranch, and I had a friend of mine that told the joke one time. So, oh, Jamal, your family's the whitest family on the block. And it's because I
Wow.
said, well, why
That's
would you even
great.
say that? Why would you say that? Well, you guys all, talk proper, and you guys, both of your parents, they're gainfully employed, and
Oh,
you guys
just
seem, seem to
just
be doing
just
good for yourself. And it's
that's
like, it was cold blooded. He thought it was
cold
funny, but
blooded,
I
man.
was just like, wow. But that is
Cold
something
blooded.
that is constantly pushed. If and in the book, if you look at, it talks about, acting white is basically, it's anybody that's find themselves trying, and black people we police each other with this,
Right. They,
um and with that language.
right.
It's anyone
That's
that
why I
is.
said that was so stark, is that we as a community, we subscribe to these two. That's why I said the book hits hard right out the gate with acting black and acting white, because
Yeah.
we as a community, we subscribe to it, and as you're mentioning, we police ourselves with it. Oh, look at,
Hmm.
and it's a dictionary, so everything's in alphabetical order. But going through it, reading all of these definitions, I'm a nonlinear thinker, so I connect dots where people kind of don't see dots. So I'm like, boom, this ties together with Oreo, and then this ties
Hmm.
together. I'm like, man, like, whoa. So
Yeah. And
I
Oreo.
recommend let me make sure I plug the book again. Everybody, make sure you get on Amazon, a racist dictionary. This is very, very informative. It is a dictionary. It is a functional dictionary, but it is not a dictionary in the sense of, how can I say, like black, the color opaque,
No.
and it's not. It takes the words, like you mentioned, this phrase, acting black, acting white, and it breaks down the history of how it was implemented into the culture and how it impacts the culture today. It's very excellent read. Everyone, I recommend it. It's on Amazon. Anywhere else, plug it. I don't know where else it is.
Just Amazon for right now. Yes, that's it for right now. So, thank you so much, Tim, and I really appreciate your time.
Oh no, we're not done. I just want to plug the
Oh,
book
okay.
again.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was the commercial. That was the commercial
That
break.
was a commercial break. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Let me put it up on the screen. Actually, I want people to be able to, because me just holding it up doesn't do.
The
There we go.
justice.
There we go. Put it up on the screen.
There it is. And
Yes.
thank you for helping me with the cover, man. That was
Oh
awesome,
man,
man.
this is my pleasure, man. This is right up my alley. I got to plug myself now. Thank you all for tuning. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the like, share, subscribe, check out my videos. I have everything on my page, from uh, spirituality conversations to, mostly, we have every Tuesday. Watch us live. We have conversations about everything from relationships to everything in between. But let's go on to the next question. So, did this uh putting this dictionary together, did it take a toll on any personal relationships you have with any of your friends?
Well, I mean, I don't know that was because of the dictionary. Well, maybe because, I on my social media, I've always, I don't know if you've noticed, but been talking about politics and race for, I mean,
Right.
probably over 10 years. And, a number of people have definitely fallen away, because especially after, this current administration came in, I really shifted. I used to I used to post a lot about positivity, and, you know, the possibility and of life, and things like that, and how. our, how how I would say, like, how as a society, societies, or as a society, we're moving forward, as Black people, we can move forward and things like that. But I switched, um, when he got reelected back, more towards a kind of a protest. um I mean, everything I post about pretty much now is about race and showing how racism is tearing this country apart, and a number of people didn't like that, and which was unfortunate. It definitely took a toll. You read this stuff, and you read some of the, you go into, I mean, you see enough videos of, kind of just, I watched, quite a few, a few documentaries. Two documentaries I would tell you, every black one. This first one, every black person should see. It's called An Ethnic Notion. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No,
That
I'm looking around my table right now to see if I can find a pen so I can write it down.
The Ethnic Notions. That that documentary was very shocking, and
Just
shocking.
message it to me so I don't forget.
Okay. No, I
No,
will.
no, don't do it now, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'll give you that information. But Ethnic Notions, and that really, it it dove into, like we were talking about this, the caricature, and kind of like inferences, and showed, with everything from blackface, and then showed when black people started doing blackface.
Wow,
That I had no idea was a thing. I didn't know that
I have
black
no
people
idea.
did. I had no idea that. And so these people are forcing, and that was pretty much at the time. It was, that was some of the only work for black actors. They didn't want you if you were somebody that was doing, poetry, or you could, if you were coming out doing something positive, which kind of relates to what you see now. You know what I'm saying? These are characters that we see on our screens representing us, and they don't represent the breadth of beauty of our ability as artists, our ability as, just, our food, our art, our style, all the things that everybody else tries to bite off of us. You know what I'm saying? They take from black culture, but don't want to give us credit for. You know, so that was an excellent documentary. And there's also, Race. It's called Race: The Illusion, or the Power of Illusion. Yeah, Power of an Illusion. Power of an Illusion. And that was, a very, uh, shocking, documentary as well. Both of those, I mean, it goes into everything we've been talking about with dehumanization of black folks. And in that one, it shows how the wealth gap became so prevalent in between blacks and whites in this country. And so that those two I would really recommend, uh, for people to. And I'm so sorry, I went off on a tangent. I forgot the question.
No, you're fine. You're fine because I would just because you answered the question whether or not it took a toll on any personal
Oh yes.
relationships that
No.
because
What?
going through all of these words and learning these histories, you may have come across a few words where you may have heard someone say them to you and just not have known the connotation, and now that you know the connotation, like this dude been saying
Yeah.
this to me for all of these, you know what I
Well,
mean?
it just weighs on you after a while. I had to take a step back. There was a few times when I had to, take a breather, because I was becoming very resentful towards white people, and that's not me.
Right.
I'm someone that's known for getting along with everybody,
No,
and
no, I understand that.
yeah.
I can really like the movie Rosewood.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I had to stop because I noticed that whenever I watched Rosewood, I couldn't like go outside for like a couple of hours.
Yeah.
'Cause
Well, we don't realize this, how traumatizing. I mean, black people. You know, we have been, traumatized over time, and it's that trauma is even passed down in our DNA. You know,
yeah,
and a
cellular
lot of
memory.
people don't, cellular memory, and people don't realize, or for white folks, they get to have PTSD, and they can, be have anxiety and stress, and it's understood, you know.
Right.
But for our folks, we don't see that same compassion. You know what I'm saying? We're
Right.
not allowed that. We're not allowed to be stressed. We're not allowed to have anxiety. You know, we're not allowed
And that
to.
goes back to, like you
Uh,
said, we're not human to them. We're not seen as human.
well,
Like,
we're not.
perfect example, I'm sorry to cut you off, but what you
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 good?
made me think about something. It's,
Hmm.
they have this field of study, right? It's a science. People go to the university and degrees in this subject. It's called sociology, right?
Yeah.
And in sociology, they teach you learn that the one and two things that create crime is poverty and lack of education, right?
Hmm.
So why is it that when they look at, and our communities aren't like how they were in the 80s and 90s, but in the 80s, well, it just depends on where you look. But when they look at our communities, these areas are intentionally stifled from economic opportunity, socioeconomic opportunity and education. And then they're like, look how full of crime these people are. These people they're animals. Look how they act. It's like, no. Oh, so you forgot that the lack of poor education and lack of social economic opportunity creates this behavior. You want to say that it's innate to us, but you have a class that you teach in the universities that say when you put these two particular things together, this becomes the outcome, which is why
Yeah.
you see it in places like Hemet. For everybody, for those of us that don't know about what's going on, but Hemet is actually a more rural, mostly white populated area that if you made everybody in Hemet black, they would call it a ghetto. And
Hmm.
that's the only thing you would change would be the skin
Yeah.
color.
Well, I mean, if you look, I mean, if you actually look across socioeconomic, um, across the board, if you look across, if you look at two, if you take two black people or two, for example, you take black folks that are in a certain socioeconomic uh, status or level,
Mhm.
and you put them with a white person that's in that same socioeconomic level, you see similar crime rates. You see similar rates of their life expectancy. You see similar rates
Sure.
of yeah, crime and,
Abuse, the whole nine.
and abuse, all of everything. It's all the same, and it's because we're all humans. That's the thing. But they like to, it's very clever the way that they use, again, the statistics, the words, all this type of stuff. It creates a system. It creates a system that is, where they can get away with it, but we can't. Or be they can be live in a trailer park, and maybe the upper high city white folks won't mess with them, but the police aren't shooting them. You know what I'm saying? Like they can go in and have a
Oh, no, no,
fight with a
no.
police officer. Mhm.
Man, I just saw a video of that like yesterday. I wish I
Yeah.
wish I could just pull it up, but it was literally they were showing the contrast of there was a guy, a cock white guy, and he was
Hmm.
fighting a white cop.
Yeah.
Because,
Chasing
and
them.
I mean, he was whooping this cop's tail. I mean, he was stomping a mud hole in this cop. And then
Yeah.
when three other
And they
cops came and they subdued him and put handcuffs on him.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
You
it
could
goes
have
from that clip, it goes from that clip to a black guy getting beat up by three cops. And then they get him on, then they stump a mud hole in him and get him on the ground. And while he's fighting to get up, they execution style.
yeah, in his head. Yeah, I saw
Right.
that same clip, and it again, we see the difference of how we are all treated, and what's viewed as being as acceptable and that's why it's so dangerous right now with what with this movement that we are seeing, and the way that we're moving in this country right now, because of the justification is already there. And if you think for a second that they're going to stop at Mexicans, or Hispanics, This is um, a machine that they're building. And if we thought mass incarceration was bad before, what they're trying to do, I mean, they're trafficking human beings. And once they're done with the Hispanics, who do you think is next? You know,
I wouldn't necessarily say next because we were first.
well,
You know what I
well,
mean?
who do you think is coming back for again? You
Right.
know what I'm saying? I mean,
And
there's
that's
already a
that's a
precedent for that.
conversation for another time because that's something that I have conversations about because that same uh notion is mentioned. And I'm like, well, they kind of are okay with us because we still technically are as much as they don't like us, they still understand that we are Americans
I
and
don't.
we're an American that of their own construction, but we're still
Mhm.
American.
Well, I would have to push back a little bit on that because the first day of this administration's coming in, one of the first things that they went for was the 14th Amendment, man.
Right,
Birthright citizenship.
right,
And so with that, that shows you where this. I mean, these are Nazis, bro. they're
right,
they don't. I don't know, bro. I mean, I would uh fall back on that. Myself personally, I don't believe that for a minute. And I think if we get comfortable and get to a place that we say, oh yeah, it'll never happen to us, you know, and then and people and we don't fight back against what we're seeing right now. Uh, when you see a fascist takeover of a country, they come for the marginalized people first because they're the ones that it's acceptable. It's a precedent. You know, this is something that, oh yeah, this is, it was their fault. It's
right.
easy. It's easy to make that next step. And so I don't know that myself personally, I don't believe that. But that's another conversation
Like
for
it,
another
right?
day.
Like I said, that's right. That's what I said. That's what I said. That's the because yeah, because I got so much going on, and my wheels are turning so much. Like, well, because you see, you see the political. How do I want to phrase this? The
Machine.
political shift within the
Mhm.
political shift within our community. You start seeing a lot of people that look like us that are like, hey, you know, Democrats have been in rule for 30 years and we still doing bad. So hey, the
Yeah.
definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect a different outcome. So,
Well, what I would say to that is, I mean, I'm not, pro Democrat or anything. I feel a lot of, leftists. Well, I wouldn't say leftists. I would say a lot of the, modern day Democrats. I don't know how you even, I liberal, white
yeah,
liberals.
they didn't split it so much. Yeah, it's hard to
They're not really about us.
right,
There are white people that are for us, and I don't want to completely dump on white people, and that's not what this book is about. What
right,
really what that was what this the dictionary is about is showing the the secret sauce, you know,
right,
showing how the how it came to be that um we were viewed in this way. And I know there's white people out there I know and love, and that are good to me, and that
right,
I know would have my back. But
right,
there are a lot more than what I realize that don't, and people that once you start speaking up and speaking out, they all of a sudden they're nowhere to be found, or they attack you. I had a situation with a guy that I've known for 10 years, and he apparently didn't like the fact that I was speaking out against racism, or about race, and out against racism. And he sends me this crazy message at 3 o'clock in the morning, talking about how our people are the only people that are we still can't even grow food or grow anything like that, and just talking trash about that we would do if we gained power, we would do to them what they would have done to us, which is not the
that's
case.
their fear. And
That's
that's
their fear.
actually their fear. That is
Yeah,
actually their true fear. Is
yeah.
tit they fear we're gonna do tit for tat. And I don't
Mm,
understand why. Well, because when you look at history during the Reconstruction period, That didn't happen. They were black
Not at all.
senators, there were black
Yeah,
senators, black governors,
immediately,
black mayors. Immediately, it was
immediately.
immediately, and none of that happened.
No.
And the whole reason why Jim Crow came into place is because they start seeing black people getting into these positions of power, and that was their
Yeah,
fear. Oh, if enough of
yeah,
them getting elected, they're gonna put us in slavery.
yeah, yeah. And then the
Right. It
backlash,
was just
and
guilt.
again with Barack Obama when he came in, and now we're seeing. I mean, he got to the highest level, and that pendulum swung, all the way back, and is slapping us all in the face. And so
Right.
yeah,
Absolutely. Everybody, I want to thank everybody that's watching. Make sure you hit the like and share, subscribe. Be sure to get the book. Oh, come on. There we go. Get the book is on Amazon, A Racist Dictionary, written by my good friend Jamaal Best. And before
yes, sir.
we shut it down, I actually want to show you this because you said you didn't see anything about this. Let me put my disclaimer on the bottom of the screen for fair use for copyright, so we don't get hit with copyright infringements. You said you never seen this Natasha doll thing, right?
No.
So I want to show this to you, and this will coincide with the overall message of the book of explaining to people, because I've read the book. So anybody watching the book is not dumping on white people like he mentioned. The book does not
Mm.
do that at all. The purpose of the book, and I love the book because it does something that I do all the time. It is meant to bring understanding to the history of why why you see certain behaviors, why are certain behaviors associated with us as a group of people. It very eloquently breaks all, and it attached the history and the sources. He didn't pull any of this out his ass. Okay, let me see, share screen.
Videos of a doll being punched, slapped, and run over by a bike have been going viral on Chinese social media, sparking outrage around the world. Who are these dolls? And why are they trending? Popularly known as the Natasha doll in China, it comes in three colors: white, brown, and black. What is the black one that people seem to be coming after? A viral comment made on the Chinese social media app Rednote said that a white doll would look too human to hurt. I spoke to Ugonne, a Nigerian mom who has lived in China for years, to explain her experience with this doll.
It was actually last Friday that I, for the first time, saw the conversations around the Natasha doll. I go into the Chaoshi, some small shops around the estate that I live, and I saw this doll right there. It turned out that this is Candy. This is the Candy version of the doll, which actually now goes to show you how incredibly popular the thing is.
There have been instances of racism against Black people in China before, especially during COVID in 2020. In the case of Natasha dolls, we've seen online in the comments, people are focusing on the violence inflicted on the dolls, but not the fact that the dolls are depictions of a Black baby.
And it's not the first time that the BBC has covered this either. In 2022, it was discovered that a group of Chinese creators were paid to have kids in Malawi chat racist phrases in Mandarin. These kids had absolutely no idea what they were talking about.
There's actually an undertone of real racism that should be tackled, that should be looked at, that we should actually pay attention to and correct and condemn if we see it happening.
In response, the Chinese government have warned that selling it this way might be breaking the law, and they've started inspecting where it's being sold near schools.
And there you go.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, again,
In
you
real
go,
time. In
you
real
get
time.
right today, and you get enough, you see enough images over time and it's dehumanization and desensitization, and basically it's expected. It's programming. That's exactly what we've been programmed to value white life above black life, in this country, and across. I mean, we live in a Eurocentric world, and so across the world we are very much programmed to
Right.
to and that's why this is in China and it's acceptable, and it's you know it's
Right.
normalized. you
And that
know
goes back to
yeah,
like I said, what stood out to me and hit heaviest the most was in the epilogue, where it's basically reinforcing that language was used to define blackness rather
yeah,
than actually allowing the culture to define itself.
yeah. we
So
don't we don't
acting
define
black,
ourselves.
being ghetto, right? Acting black, being ghetto, gangsters, thugs, all of that, all of those have been attached to us regardless, to where we experience. And it's what's so crazy about it is that it's perpetuated across the world. Even, I don't know if you remember some years back, Oprah Winfrey was dressed down on vacation in Europe somewhere, and she went into a high-end store to like look at some purses and everything, and they basically told her, you can't be in here because you can't afford nothing that's in the building.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Wow.
Yeah, because they didn't
That's
know who she
crazy.
was because she was dressed
Yeah,
down.
she
She
was
was on
dressed down.
vacation. So
Yeah,
so so not knowing that this is a billionaire walking into your establishment, but it's like,
yeah.
you're black, you can't, get out of here.
Well, I mean, it even goes into something I would say even more impactful. It would be how our, as far as like something like housing, or um, uh, a job, getting a job. If you're black, I've that's happened to me actually. That's happened to me before. That I was told by one of my a good friend of mine that's a white man that helped me to get a job at his place. That there was a Mexican dude actually that was one of the higher ups there that told him not to hire a black person because, oh, we don't hire them, that kind of a thing. And he, years later after I left there, he told me about that, and he said, oh yeah, we don't hire him, he's black. He didn't know that we knew each other, you know and so it can affect you in your pocketbook. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is something that is
Right,
uh and it does affect us in housing, in education, in your place of work. People don't
right,
realize how deep this stuff goes, and
right.
it's all. Go ahead.
No, I'll say, because what you're saying is a reality. It's like, even when I was in school, in junior college, they were telling me that I was fortunate that my name sound the way that it sound,
It
because
does. Mhm.
on my resume, and it's crazy. It's like, it's so it's so prevalent that it's accepted. You know what I mean? It's like,
Oh, it's
that
known.
right, because you're in school, and it's like, oh, you're lucky that your name is this, because it doesn't sound like
Hmm.
a name that they would throw in the trash, because
Yeah.
they're saying it. They throw resumes in the trash just looking at the
Oh, for
name,
sure.
which is
Yeah.
just
No, and
overt
then
race. It's overt discrimination, right? And that's supposed to
yeah,
go against, that's against
but
EEO right there.
who's going to say anything though? And who's
Right.
actually policing that? And that's and that goes into something even, and I feel for my darker brothers and sisters out there. The colorism, I don't know if you know colorism in your darknesses,
Darkness is
but darknesses, but the darker you are, I mean, I go into this into in as far as one of the definitions, it talks about colorism, and
colorism,
you know
yes.
colorism, and it's crazy because it actually affects your access. If it's hard for me, for someone that is of lighter skin, then I can't imagine what it's like for my brothers and sisters out there that of darker hue.
Right.
And
Imagine, imagine. You see how I look right now? I got this braids on my hair and all of that, right? You get my resume. My resume has my name on it. Oh man, I call this guy in, man. On paper, I'm a whole Irish dude.
Oh yeah,
I, I
Kelly.
show up and I look like this. And they're like,
Mhm.
oh, we can't
Yeah.
say no to the interview now because he's
Now,
here. Because
yeah,
it'll
he's
be
here.
overt at this, right?
Yeah. And actually quite some time, I mean, I used to send out resumes with J Best instead
Mhm.
of my whole name. After 9/11,
Right,
I noticed a notable difference in how many callbacks I would get for jobs and such. And
right,
so, on just professionally, you have to, being associated with blackness
right,
is crazy. And the amount of anti-blackness period that we're seeing all throughout society, and how it's being normalized is a huge concern, because I feel like everything is being just ripped back. All of that progress that was made before, the civil rights era, and for us to these laws that were put into place, to protect us from these very people that were, that have murdered and raped and all the things that they accuse us of, being violent and stealing and all of this stuff. uh, to be able to now in this modern day to repeal those voting rights, or just to attack the Voting Rights Act in the way that it has been attacked, in combination with the way they were trying to go after birthright citizenship. It paints a stark picture, for Black folks right now in this country, and it's hugely concerning to me, because again, I'm big on pattern recognition, and when you attack the rights of a people that has already been marginalized, and you're going with this one guy that's overruling everything, and everybody's following him, and I mean, it's fascism. you know um, Marginalized people don't do well in that situation, and so, that is something for me, that's why I say um, it's really, really concerning, and something that really lit a fire into me this time around. Because the first time, I mean, I sat and watched the news all day and night, and whenever I get on, and just yelling at the screen and being upset and things. But this time around, I knew that that wasn't going to be the healthy thing for me, and I actually canceled my YouTube TV or whatever, and and
yeah.
that,
Because once you get your algorithm going, it's gonna keep feeding
yeah,
you and keep
it just
feeding you
feeds
and
you
keep
and
feeding
feeds
you.
you.
Right,
Yeah, so I canceled that, and I really tried to focus on doing something positive this time around, instead of falling for the trap. So
right. And well, I'm glad you did, because this is an excellent, 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 excellent piece of work right here.
I
Again,
appreciate you, brother.
this right. Again, this is not, I repeat, this is not racist in itself. This is not a a book to promote racism. This isn't a book to teach people how to be racist and to use these words in a manner that's degrading. This is an educational piece of work, and it should be treated as such. It's a great piece of work. Absolutely.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Yes, yes, indeed. All right. Is there any plugs you want to put out? You don't want people to find you on your socials or anything like that?
My name is Jamaal Best. If you're gonna come through on Facebook, Instagram, it's good_call_Jamaal. And the book, Racist Dictionary, I got my copy here too. So it's available on Amazon in paperback. I'm sorry, in Kindle paperback and hardcover. I'm working on hopefully getting doing an Audible version of it coming up. So that's going to be next. But right now it's available on Amazon.
Let me
That would be it.
put you up on the screen. People, if you want to follow him and be respectful, of course. This is This is, like I said, this dictionary is an educational tool. It is not a mode of perpetuating racism or hatred in any way or shape or fashion. And shame on you if you use it as such.
Yeah, do not do that. Do not do that. Well, you can't really do that. History is not racist. So it just, you're telling it what it is, and that's
Right.
it's not racist. What happened happened, and so
Right.
you
And
can't
like you
you can't
said,
racialize that.
and like you were saying, and this, I'm gonna say this to look at my camera, which I don't know which camera is on. I got like 3 cameras. For us, do not get this dictionary and start to harbor any resentment, because like he said, this is history. This happened. This is what we learned from. We've moved through it. Don't get this and become resentful and hateful, like, oh man, they see what they did. Ooh, don't do that. Don't do that.
No, that's not the
Just
purpose.
use it for what I understand it to be. To teach, and especially for a lot of, like I mentioned in the beginning, all these Gen Z kids that are going around using this language and don't even understand the history behind it or the weight behind any of the words that they're saying. They just think it's just cool to talk black. Oh, that's you got to put that one in the next volume.
Mhm. To talk black. Well, that's
Right.
part of acting black. That's anything
Right.
for culture. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
assigning a culture with a behavior is not that's not cool.
Right.
But one thing I will say about a lot of people right now, and this would go into, like, the word like chimp or monkey or anything. That's a very chimping out. That's a word
Right.
that they're using right now. A lot of people, I would commend people that are using restraint. And we have to
Right.
continue to use restraint, because that's what these people want, is for us to be violent and act the way that they say. They want us to be who they say we are.
Right.
And we can't do that. We can't do that, especially right now.
Right. All right. Well, we're at the 1 hour and 17 mark. You don't hang up. I'm gonna thank everybody for tuning in. Everybody, we're here with Jamaal Best. Please go pick up a racist dictionary on Amazon. It's, like you said, it's in Kindle, hardback, paperback. It isn't very expensive. It's not gonna kill your wallet. It's a must-have on the shelf if you want to be sure that you teach your children, because that's where it has to start. Because if we don't teach our children what's going on, then it gets passed on to the next generation, and then it gets perpetuated through perpetuity forever. All right, everybody, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on Tuesday. Hang on, Jamaal.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
It's the average black man show, talking about everything you need to know. Sometimes things may get a little heated, but these conversations are needed to help the community heal and grow. It's the average black man show, talking about everything you need to know. Sometimes things may get a little heated, but these conversations are needed to help the community heal and grow. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel.